And I know
All right.
Kayla said she would jump on. I talked to her earlier and I'm going to text her on.
Yeah. Okay, well, it's 5:03 and we're on the Housing Committee. President is Atashna, Medicine Shield, May Gerald, Karen Garrity, Miranda Fisher, and we're waiting on Ron Mitchell and Kayla Evans, who will probably be joining us soon. So, Miranda, you said that Kayla had dropped something off at Town Hall. Do you have that in front of you?
No, she wanted to drop it off at Town Hall, but because I was at the community center, she decided just to stay home and she'll read it to everyone.
Okay.
But I can ask her always to drop it off on Monday too. And
yeah, it'd be great to have everybody's thing up there. Atashna, I noticed that Ron had posted an item on the economic development tab of the plan. And in it, he talks about 3-story buildings. My guess is that if he were to post something here on housing, it would probably be along similar lines. So I wanted to let you know that that was there. Because as you know from attending meetings, he says that the economic feasibility factor for building in these times is you have to go up and to 3 stories. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's on the page.
Okay, well, thank you. And in the original, in the housing summary, that housing report that was done in 2013 or so, that was one of the recommendations. The recommendation actually said, talked about infill. However, the town geography being as it is, the only infill really is up. And Tungsten Village, I think, is the first 3-story. And that was a bit shocking, but the first shock was when Risham went up 2 stories in her buildings. I think we've all pretty much gotten used to that, though. And my only concern with the 3-story building would be that it not interfere with the view, the panorama of the mountains that we live in.
Well,
Kayla is on now. Oh, sorry.
Oh, good. So she can speak it herself, because I was going to say, hi, Kayla.
Hi, guys. Sorry, I switched 2 numbers on the password, and so I had to, it didn't accept it, so I had to run back, turn my computer on, and so I apologize. Anyway, hi, everybody.
Hi, Kayla. Hey, I was just telling Atashna that Ron, if you listened to my message, I was thinking he wasn't even on the committee because I haven't talked to him for so long, but that's why we have the meeting at this time. But Ron had posted a thing under the economic development about 3-story buildings. And we were just discussing how can you build a 3-story building and not ruin the view. So I guess one of the questions is, how close are we talking about the view being impacted? I mean, I certainly miss watching the moon rise from my house with the fire station here. There's certain things that happen around us sometimes that change, but sometimes we have to go with that. So I was just wondering, it's, if I remember his project right, I wish he were here so he could describe it, but I thought that the big building, the 3-story building, was going to be like from the PI all the way down to Snyder Street, between First Street and Second Street. And then he had the property on the other side of Second Street where he was going to house some of the mechanical, where that
Miranda just put in the chat that Ron said he'll be on in 5 minutes. I will say though, May, that based on his most recent conceptual drawings of his development, you're correct. So it's basically that block area between First and Second, where the rock shop is up in one corner, and then the brick building down at the end, that now Kathmandu is using. That whole block area would have the highest profile. It's interesting though, because it slopes, the ground slopes. So there'll be a little slope to it basically, but you're right, that would be the highest part of his development.
Yeah, that's always been my understanding too. However, on a different note, I don't feel that that's an appropriate discussion for the housing subcommittee at this time.
That's correct.
Someone's
you don't
into
really,
a project.
yeah, you don't want to focus on any development, past or future. What you want to focus on is what's your vision, and then start looking at big chunk goals. But it would be something more along the lines of increase affordable housing by 10% by 2030 or something like that. Not so caught up in all the details, how is this going to happen? That's what this document is, a visionary guide, so that a future developer could look at it and see what was the vision of the town regarding housing, what are some of their goals, and how can I achieve that through my development. So you're absolutely right, Atashna. You don't want to get caught up in analyzing maybe a development that happened or a development that could happen. Instead, what is the vision?
Well, that's what we're doing tonight for sure. But I think that it's pretty hard not to think about the projects that have been discussed for about a decade, and not consider them. But that can be a discussion we have among ourselves. And certainly with the vision, we want to keep it short enough to put on a t-shirt, right?
A big T-shirt, May.
Well, the different committees have operated differently. Some have real short catchphrases and then bullet points under them. Others have kind of a vision statement that actually is 2 or 3 sentences. But Kayla, was there something you wanted to share with the group? That was my understanding.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been thinking obviously a lot about housing the last 9-10 years here, and trying to put the needs specifically. So can I just quickly read some of the things that I jotted down, and it won't take more than a minute to do this. So the thing I started out with is I have a T-shirt phrase to start out with, and I said, create housing today that will address the needs of tomorrow. That's not too bad. Flexibility in housing. And then I came up with, well, there's zoning, construction, design, need versus use, multi-use. Can we design things? Should housing be designed so that it can morph into something differently? Can we have housing that's smaller that can get bigger, or bigger that can get smaller? I think we need to think outside the conventional box for answers on our housing problems up here, or our housing challenges, I should say. I think housing needs to be integrated with most of the other community needs and concerns. I don't think we're not operating in our own little box where housing has nothing to do with anything else that any of the other subcommittees or other concerns or desires or problems that are facing our community have identified. So it's sort of socially, economically, environmentally, we need to look at all of these components as we go about deciding what way we think about housing. And then it's very interesting. I think the first thing we need to do is identify the need. And then the second thing is to identify the obstacles to solving those needs. And I came up with who, what, when, why, and where, and how. And if we can answer all of those questions, we will have our housing, obviously a lot of the answers will come out of those simple things, but it's a formula that I think could help us in taking a subject that is huge and varied and vast and try and distill it down into workable processes. So that's sort of the way what I've been thinking about in the last week.
Well, I
Comments?
certainly appreciate the who, what, why, where, and how, and how much, maybe.
Well, how is
How much, how
much
many?
is under how? Yeah.
Yeah. How much and how many?
Well, how can be price. It can be how do we accomplish this? When you start answering each one of those, you identify the specifics like who. Okay, who's going to build it? Private versus governmental versus subsidized. What are we going to build? When are we going to build it? Why are we going to build it? Obviously, that's because there's a need. And how are we going to build it? We have to think about how does it function in our community? How is it subsidized? How is it paid for? We can talk on an abstract about housing till we're all blue in the face, but the reality comes down to there's two ways that it happens, and one is through governmental subsidies, and the other is private funding and philanthropic. So, and then each one of those has their own subsets. So it's like a it's like a it's a puzzle.
It's a puzzle, and we have to fit in the pieces of
Right.
traffic flow and habitat and all the rest of it, which I don't think is really going to be that hard.
I don't either, but I think we have to identify these things. It's like when I said integrate housing with all of the other community needs and concerns, that's what I meant. It's like we can't just in our bubble, or we shouldn't. We're not doing a service if we do our portion of the envisioning in a bubble and not communicate or understand the processes and the needs, wishes, desires, questions, everything that all of the other groups are tackling, because we are all interconnected. So.
Well, I agree.
Comments?
Tashna, would you like to jump in?
Yes.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Is Ron trying to get on? He should be on by now. Anyway,
I
go
don't
ahead.
see him yet.
Okay.
Sorry, we're running into some issues, and if I call him in, I'm going to have to, if we don't adjourn on time, then he'll lose the meeting. So I'm trying to figure out another way for him to get on. So I'm working on it.
Go ahead, Tashna.
Okay, I'm not sure if I missed something. Or maybe I just have a different, I think I agree with what you're saying, Kayla and May, and at the same time, I feel that what you're talking about is a little further down the line, maybe for the next meeting of what is it, goals and objectives. And the meeting this evening is to take what we've submitted and work it into a common cohesive vision statement, finalize that. And on that note, May, I read yours and I highlighted in blue the parts that I thought would be appropriate for the vision statement, and the things that I did not highlight, I thought would be appropriate for the next meeting of goals and objectives.
Right. Well,
Okay.
I'm trying to get onto that right now. What is it? Google Docs. Need to find my link. Here, I think this is it. Okay, so you think that the areas in blue might be part of the mission or the vision statement, and the rest of it for the following discussion. Is that what you're saying?
I'm slow with the computer.
Me too.
I actually heard the opposite from Atashna. Atashna, your microphone's off now. What I heard is she highlighted in blue the things she thought should wait until you have the conversation
No,
about goals and
no,
objectives. No, or
Karen,
is it the
that's
other way?
incorrect. What May
Okay,
said is
sorry.
correct. The things in
Okay.
blue, integrate that with take my vision statement and May's vision statement and integrate them. And with May's, integrate the blue and then the normal color ones, the black ones for the goals and objectives meeting, and do somewhat similar like on the other committee that I'm on, how we took the vision statements and we worked them into one cohesive, we meshed them together on the points that we agreed with, and then we wordsmith them.
Okay, and in your statement, Atashna, you put section F in blue. So your vision statement to me looks more like a list of goals. Or I think what we need to do here now is Kayla, Atashna, and if Ron gets on, and I should, with the help of Miranda and Karen, try to figure out how long do we want our vision statement. Kayla, your comment, create housing, and I would add and habitat, or with an eye to habitat. Now for the future is pretty short. I think it covers, I think our number one goal was the elder housing. And obviously that is going to be an obvious side point of that. So, is there a sentence in yours, Atashna? I like your D one. It's a 3 short sentences that and I like C. The ones, so if it gets too detailed, like in perpetuity, the lawyer in me or the journalist says you better not put that in a vision statement unless you're really prepared to do it. I mean, it can be a vision, but I guess I'm a cynic. I'm not sure about perpetuity. Anyway, what does everybody think?
The perpetuity wasn't a question for me also. Right now, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think even Boulder County Housing, some of their projects are 35 years, and then it can revert back to fair market. So I think
that's not my understanding, Kayla, but you know, if you've got research and can show us, that'd be great. I thought that Boulder County Housing Authority are in perpetuity.
everything that they built?
I could be wrong, but that's my understanding.
Okay. I somewhere along the line doing some research, I remember it sticking in my head that there was a 35-year number there, that projects that were built that are not necessarily by Boulder County Housing, but are, say, partnerships with the county, that there was a 35-year, and I think we need to find out what legally is out there. I think you're going to run into some real struggles with private people, enterprises trying to build if you put those kind of restrictions on. There are all sorts of components that can be put into a deal where, it's how many years you amortize it over the years, then it, in 20 years it turns to 5% fair market. So, I mean, the devil's in the details, and I think we need to look at that a little bit more before we put something like that down in writing. That can be an understood, and it can also be something that we as a town could put that in possibly in our codes for or restrictions in buildings for certain projects. But I don't know if we want to put that in a mission statement. I think that when you lock yourself in on things, sometimes when you're not able to comply with that it, I don't know. I think 70% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So.
Well, I certainly learned as a reporter that you want to, excuse me, you want to hedge what you say so that what you say you can back up. And so I'm a little bit of a minimalist when it comes to that. And the reason, when I put housing and habitat down, I thought, well, some people might not like this, and it could be open to misinterpretation. But at the same time, one of the things people love about Nederland is the way the animals walk through town, just like Estes Park. And it can be part of our marketing ideas in Nederland and reasons for, fewer cars on the road. There are all kinds of things that come from any word or combination of words. So I'm kind of hoping that Karen can help us boil it down, because Karen has a real gift for that. And but I think we need to keep discussing it. Maybe Karen, you could throw out an idea, and then we could go around again.
I did want you to know Ron is on now.
Oh, great.
Just in case you didn't know that, May. And I do like helping people distill like a large statement into something smaller, or put a combination of statements together. And I was looking at your, the Google Docs, and where would you want to start? Because you've got Atashna's, and I agree, she's written her vision statement to be kind of bullet points, but I could pull it all together. And then looking at yours, you've got kind of that catchphrase, housing and habitat for all. And then you go into the town will manage new growth and so on and so forth. And you've got Atashna's, edits in blue. I guess where I'm going with this is there something else? I know, Kayla, you've talked about, creating housing today to address the needs of tomorrow. And then you talked about more kind of the goals and sort of the moving pieces, like, how do we adjust code accordingly? How do we look at the design, so on and so forth? And then Ron, I don't know if I've seen Ron's contributions. So I guess I'm asking the group, and maybe May, you want to lead that conversation, is do you feel like you're ready with the information you have to try to distill it into a statement, or do you need a little bit more input from some of your members?
Well, I'd certainly like to hear, Ron, I saw that in your other committee, your vision statement wasn't a short one, which is what we did with the other subcommittees I'm on. I think the direction was to have it short enough that it would fit on a t-shirt. Did you put any thought into that?
Well, I've put a lot of thought into the project here, but I haven't put anything on paper. And I guess I'm the odd man out because when I do a vision, it has detail in it. And that appears something that it really isn't wanted overall. And so I will do my best to try and come up with something that's a little broader than what I did for that committee. But my personal view is that unless you have some real specifics in terms of housing as a vision, your vision, by the time it's 10 years old, gets twisted around by somebody else or situations or whatever to where it doesn't function as it was intended. And so that's why I like to see things a little more specific. For example, if you really want more housing, you say, well, create greater density and smaller units. That's what the housing needs study says, but you've got to, I feel, be somewhat specific. And you could say maybe increase the densities by, and this is just off the top of my head, it could be anything, by 30%, so that you can get more utilization out of fewer square feet. And so that situation or that kind of idea so far hasn't fitted in very well, but that's kind of how I do visioning, and so I would like to see it considered. Thanks, May.
You're welcome, Ron. I think we're trying to get this together before, what is it, Tuesday's meeting? Do we have a full committee meeting on Tuesday? Karen? Miranda?
Sorry, I was playing around with the words. I don't have the schedule in front of me. I think next Tuesday might, wait, what is the date today? Our next board meeting is the 16th. So I do think the next vision committee meeting was originally scheduled for next Tuesday. Miranda, are you still on? I know she was having some technical challenges.
Yeah, we should get a schedule as part of our tabs here in the Google Docs, maybe. Yeah, I know you sent one out, but I don't see it here under the Google Docs.
So I think all the aims, I have to get to it. So there is, I can put a timeline. I can just put a timeline as its own document.
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
I'd like an updated schedule so that we can see at a glance what the meetings are and that kind of stuff. Because I remembered that there was something, was it a subcommittee meeting on the 9th or something?
Correct. So the subcommittee meeting on the 9th is to review all the vision statements and just to get feedback from your other committee members as kind of the first vetting before it goes to the public charrettes. So that's the point of the meeting on the 9th.
Okay, so as a committee, do we want to, Karen sounds like she's been working on some words. I'm not quite sure. I thought there was a document on under municipal government from you, Ron, but I just looked for it and I couldn't find it. Because you mentioned some of the stuff in that.
Sorry, May, I didn't understand the question.
It's under the vision statements folder.
It's
It's
under
the-
which folder?
Once you're in municipal government and economic development,
Yeah.
if you click on vision statements, then Ron's is the first one.
Oh, I see. This one's, I don't think. Okay. Anyway, Karen, did you look at that? No, this is
Yeah,
first
I'm playing with it right now. I'm trying to kind of look at what you said, what Atashna said, what Kayla said, and even try to work in some of what Ron said, but I think it's going to take me a little time. Oh, I see Ron just added his vision statement.
That's for municipal government. I don't think, Ron, did you send one
Oh,
for housing?
okay. Never
Yeah,
mind.
it is.
I did not send one for housing.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyways, I can keep playing with it. I'm not sure I'll be able to get something together super quickly because it's a lot. You guys are coming from different perspectives, which is awesome, which is what you want. But it's hard to pull it all together in a cohesive statement. But I'm working on it.
And for the committee to know, the goal is to have, it doesn't have to be your final. You can adjust it throughout the month, but to have something to put before your committee peers so that they can provide feedback.
Okay, I guess what we should decide on as a committee, or maybe Karen's already thinking about this, is do we want a slogan? Do we want a couple sentence paragraph? Do we want to do that plus bullet points? Maybe we should have kind of a graded system of intricacy or wordage, number of ideas in each kind of thing. The knitting together of it all is always the hardest part, and trying to summarize various ideas. Um, some of the ideas, Ron, that have been thrown out are housing. Let's see, what was it, Kayla? Housing today for tomorrow's
create
needs.
housing today that will address the needs of tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's one.
I think that's a great vision statement. And I think you need to back it up with exactly what I said. Specific.
Well, Ron, you weren't on when I sort of, I looked at this as, okay, our task was something that could go on a t-shirt. So I started with that, but you're right. It's kind of like an outline. It's like my next thought was, okay, we've got that, but how do we go about doing that? Well, we identify what the need is. Then we identify the obstacles. And that's when I did my, how do we overcome those obstacles with who, what, when, why, where, how. May like that for being a journalist. Flexibility, it's exactly the same thing you were talking about in more detail. Flexibility in our housing, we have to look at it from zoning, construction, design, needs versus use, multi-use. How do we go about doing this and thinking, we've got to think outside the box now. And we're getting, the devil's in the detail. All of these things will determine how we go about answering who, what, when, why, or how. By you take those and you apply them to zoning, then you apply them to, listening to the town board meeting the other night when the town, I don't know if anybody tagged on and listened to that, the discussion about fire suppression. I mean, that was talk about getting down to nitty gritty nuts and bolts, and you're talking about what kind of material you can build on the house. I don't think we want to get mired down right now in those details, but that's all going to be part of what constitutes the conversation about housing in our community. Right now, what I think Karen is saying, we need an umbrella. We got a big umbrella, and underneath that umbrella,
and
all of this other
Kayla-
material. Yeah.
Kayla, I just want to say for vision statements, you wouldn't start it off with create, because that's an action item, that intimates that it hasn't been done yet, right? So a vision statement, and I gave an example in the chat. I just kind of looked at the different things that are being said and shared, and I just kind of wrote, Nederland housing is accessible and affordable to all, including elders, the local workforce, and families. Now, I'm not saying you should use that, but that's the example of a vision statement, because it's already assuming, remember, it's the top of the mountain. It's like, what does the housing landscape look like? So, and again, that's not perfect. I just threw it together, looking at the different things and listening to what you guys are saying. So instead of create housing, go
you're
ahead.
identifying the needs of seniors, families.
Well, what I did is I first said Nederland housing is accessible and affordable to all. And then I put including elders, the local workforce, and families, because those were the three that have been called out in these sample vision statements that you guys are sharing on your Google Drive. So
I don't think the word is. There has to be a better word, because that means that it's current. We're looking at the vision of what it needs to be. So.
Right, but you're saying, what is it going to look like in 2030? So a vision statement is stating what it already is in 2030 as we're envisioning it. So like May had just a catchphrase saying housing for all. That would be kind of a vision statement that's very easy to remember. It's, it's clear. Or the one that I did. When you say create housing today to address needs of tomorrow, that would be your mission statement. And mission statements are equally important, because that's where the action comes in.
Right. Okay, I'm understanding. We're doing
Does that
this
make
as,
sense? Okay, good.
Instead of looking forward, we're doing this as a bullet point looking backwards. Like, what did we accomplish? What did we create? What is it that we stand for? Not what we're hoping to create.
Well, not exactly.
Well,
see, for instance, if your vision statement was Nederland housing is accessible and affordable to all, including elders, the local workforce, and families. Let's say that's your vision statement. Then your mission statement could be something like create housing today to address the needs of tomorrow. So that could be like the bullet point that goes under your vision statement. And then you would start having goals to align with that. So one of your goals might be, the Nederland Municipal Code allows for, incentivizes affordable housing developments, or something along that line. Because that was one of the things you mentioned was code, right?
Right. I think one of the words is the word affordable.
I posted something on the chat, Kayla. You guys, I don't think we can make any guarantees to affordable to all. So I
right. So that word bothers me, because I think it pigeonholes us in a certain way that we don't want to be pigeonholed.
Exactly. So I said housing that is affordable to the local workforce and resident elders.
I want to be pigeonholed. We don't need another Caribou Ridge or another, we don't need more monster home developments for people who can afford them. The housing need here is great, and the crisis is for is for minimum wage workers and the working class and the middle class. And $400,000 houses are not meeting the need of the housing burdened.
I'm
Well,
understanding that,
Natasha,
and
you're never
I'm
going to get
agreeing with you.
you're never going to get that housing until you create the incentives for it to be done. And you can go right down the list of the things that inhibit housing of that in that category and eliminate them. And if you don't put that sort of thing into your vision statement, it won't happen.
Oh, and I agree totally with what you're saying, Ron. But I think that that's part of the goals and objectives, not the vision statement.
But you know, Atashna, we're not only looking at this from the, you know, my perspective, your perspective. We're looking at this from the perspective of someone looking at the town of Nederland as a resident, as our goals, which are, if we're talking about, if we put that kind of a word in there, it says anything that's built from now on has to be in the category of affordable under what rules and guidelines that is, and nothing will end up being built, and nothing, then your prices are going to go up. I mean, that's just sort of a mechanical way of thinking about it. So it's what you're needing to have in this needs to be an assumed, but
I get your point, Kayla. Thank you. It has changed my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to break in and say that I think that we need to address the needs that we have now, and I think we need to understand that this is enough of an attractive area that if we build it, they will buy it. And we have to have a concept of scale. I suppose if we were a consulting firm, we'd get out the little houses and so forth and design different models that we see Nederland 10 years from now. And so.
And I think that's in the subtext of what this mission statement needs to be. We're talking about housing in general, which obviously low income and affordable, which would take care of seniors and handicapped and all of those other subsets. That's an understood that, Atashna, you're worried that if we don't put it in literally, it won't get done. And I think that's our second sentence. That's not our initial housing that is, you know, we're creating healthy habitat for, you know, dignity through our housing, whatever, how we want to do this, our T-shirt. And then all of those other things get put down in the dialogue and in the document following that.
Yes, Kayla.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I don't mean to be, okay.
No, it does make sense to me because I guess the sort of, I don't know, not unspoken underlying big concern for me is that seniors and the working poor get left behind.
I understand. And
okay.
Certainly anybody that's going to be building, hopefully will take that into account. And again, I say hopefully, that's where all of those other sentences and other designations would fall into place and be.
Yes, and I see that as where the goals and objectives comes in, because that's where we start to get into the
nitty gritty.
The nitty gritty, the specifics. Yes. So right now, this needs to be general.
Kayla, I did rewrite yours so that it was more of a vision statement. And so Envision 2030 would state, housing built today meets the needs of tomorrow.
Perfect.
You see, it's just a matter of
Tweaking.
the words we're choosing. So housing
Right,
built
but the-
today meets the needs of tomorrow.
Right,
Now
and that
go ahead.
certainly covers Atashna's concerns in that statement. It covers anybody building any kind of house for anybody that's going to live up here can qualify under that statement, which is what you want, I think, right now.
Does that capture though,
Sounds
May,
good to
what
me.
you were trying to say, May, in yours, housing for all, housing and I see, housing and habitat for the needs of, so how would you, because if we say housing built today meets the needs of tomorrow, and you're saying, May, housing and habitat. So environmental habitat, are you talking, for the needs of tomorrow?
Yeah, because that's part of our parks and open space, and it blends into plans, for pedestrian access and that kind of thing, that in certain places in town, these are conduits for wildlife. And it sets our town apart. I mean, are we ashamed of that? Is that something we don't want to talk about? Because I have a steady stream of animals going through my place, and I know others do as well. And I mean, one of the things I want to do, and this is not part of the vision statement, but it could be, I think that one of the things that I'd like to see as a result of my membership in this committee is that at some point we get some bullet points for what it means to be a good neighbor in Netherland. Wildlife friendly if you can. Here's how. And so that the migrations aren't messed up so much by humans. Like if we were to enforce our light ordinances, the owls that used to nest in my neighborhood might come back.
May,
So-
I would say that the housing built today meets the needs of tomorrow actually would address that. And when you
And
talk
can I
about the
put-
needs of
Can I put
tomorrow,
just a little thing that might take care of that at the end?
yeah, okay, Kayla, I just want to say I have to go soon, so
Yeah, I just have
wanted
three
you guys
words
to
that I
know.
want to tag on
Sure.
the end there. And
Sure,
if you put the
if I
word,
have to pop off, it's okay. I just wanted
Okay.
you guys to know. I didn't want to be rude.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you.
if you put the word socially, economically, and environmentally at the end of that sentence, I think that would cover all of those things.
So housing built today, that sentence?
Yeah,
So housing built today, okay, keep going, meets the environmental,
to meet the needs of tomorrow socially, economically, and environmentally.
meet tomorrow's social, environmental, what was the other one?
Socially, economically,
Economic, thank you,
environmentally.
Ron. Economic, no. How do you spell economic? Econo.
ECONONO.
In the chat, May, if you wanted to copy and paste it.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
I
doing.
put
Housing
it in
built
the
today
chat, but you can change the order.
Okay,
I
you
put
got it.
housing built today meets the economic, environmental, and social needs of tomorrow.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. You did it faster than me. See, I told you're a wordsmith.
I love playing with words.
Okay. So can somebody copy that out and okay, wait, let's do a vote. Atashna, do you think this is good for our vision statement?
It's in the chat, so I just brought it up. Is this the whole thing, this one line?
Yeah, because it's supposed to be short. And then from there, the
This is our
sky's
T-shirt. Yeah.
Okay,
well,
well,
economic, we'll say it's EES, economic environment.
housing built
Well,
today
they don't
meets
want to know about it.
economic,
Environmental is what people want, and
Well,
social.
but everything is social, whether you have.
Yeah.
And everything is economic, but not everybody is environmental.
No, but
So-
that's the goal that we're trying to educate and preserve, correct?
Exactly.
Yes, housing built today. So the bottom line here is the bottom line, right? Housing built today meets the economic, environmental, and social needs of tomorrow. I love it. I would say
We
tomorrow.
can even
though-
take out built today. We could just say housing meets the economic, environmental, and social needs.
Yes.
You
And
know,
what
I don't
about-
even,
Well,
I don't
and
even
what
know if we,
Okay, yeah, housing meets the economic, environmental, and social needs of. I
it would be
don't know.
the present and the future. So you don't even need to say that. Like, if you really wanted to keep it short, you could
So if
say,
we keep it short, just say meets the economic, environmental, and social needs of, and tomorrow's okay. I would be more prone to put down future generations.
I like that better too, Tashna. But we're not, that might be, I mean, I think that could be something that's part of our discussion. You know, how long range, we're looking ahead 10 years, but a lot
Well-
can happen in 10 years.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But tomorrow could mean next week, and it could mean 10 years from now. It could mean 20 years from now. So,
Yes. It's just a different way of saying the same
Sure.
thing.
Yeah, and it kind of sets us apart. Let's see. let me
Housing
write
meets
that
the
out.
economic,
Housing.
environmental, and social needs of the community. I like that. Yeah.
so I rewrote it to say housing meets the economic, environmental, and social needs of the community.
and not
That's
to
great.
get nitpicky, but I think you're better off having the words roll off social, economic, and environmental. Leave the last one, which is the strongest, with the environmental as your last word.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
C, SEE. That's a cool one.
There's your damn T-shirt.
There it is.
What's the order you wanted in? I'm sorry.
Social,
Social,
socially,
economic, and
economically, and environmentally, or
Yes,
social, economic,
yeah.
environmental.
Yeah, that's good. See?
I don't want to put
Karen,
a
are you
face to
typing
this.
that or
yet.
should I?
This is Miranda. I have to step outside in 3 minutes to record our police department's moment of silence for people who passed from COVID. So I either have to make someone else the host soon, unless we feel like we're at a place where we can wrap up.
I think we've got it.
I'm down.
So we
Yeah.
have housing meets the social, economic, and environmental needs of the community.
Yes.
And remember, this is still fluid. You know, as you guys have more meetings, have more conversations, as you gather with the bigger group, and these are all shared, things can morph, and then it's going to eventually go to the community. So it's just a starting point.
Right.
Okay, let's set a next meeting before we adjourn. This time next week, is that good for everybody?
That's fine.
What
For me.
will be the agenda? Will it be working on the goals and
No,
objectives?
yeah, you'll start looking at your goals and objectives.
Okay, I would like to put it forward a little bit more, because that'll give us it'll give us all more time to think about the goals and objectives and format them. I can't get that to get, well, I could, but it's
You'd like
it's
2 weeks?
stressful for me.
Are you asking for 2 weeks instead of 1 week?
Yes, the 20th instead of the 13th.
Well, I don't know. I think there's a certain value in meeting up, whether we do it formally or informally, as we work on this, because I think there's a certain exchange that moves it forward as a group.
I
And
agree.
that's why I suggested a week from today.
Okay, I'm looking at my calendar. That's fine. For some reason, I was thinking Monday, but Friday is fine.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, so the
Kayla, can you do
13th.
it? Kayla?
Yeah, I'm good. That's fine. I
Okay, and Ron?
agree.
Okay, great. Ron, you can do it? Well, this is his time, so
Yes, I can.
you're still thinking?
No, I can.
Okay, great. Okay,
So next Friday at same time, 5 o'clock?
yes, and um, is this sentence, is this chat? I didn't write it down.
It's in your.
Send it, I'm gonna send it to you guys via email.
And it's in your
Okay,
Google
thank,
Drive.
Oh,
Such a-
and it's in your Google Drive. It sounds like, is that what you said, Miranda?
Correct, it's in the Google Drive.
Okay, so actually I won't send it by email then.
so it'll be under chat?
No, if you go into your Google Drive, it's vision statement all in caps, and it's in that document.
Oh, you'll put it up there.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay,
Okay,
wonderful. So
All
shall
right.
we adjourn?
Karen,
Sounds
Miranda, thank you. Other board
Sure.
members, thank you guys.
Thank you, everybody. Let's do
Thank
our moment of
you.
silence offline then. Thank